All right, you ready? You ready for this? What is up, guys? My name is Logan Tremellen, and this is the Defying Odds podcast. Today, I had on a friend of mine named Brody Hall. At the age of 12, Brody started flipping shoes. At the age of 18, he started his own business called Xelerate Auto Appearance. And in 2022, this year, at the age of 21, he just moved his business into a 16,000 square foot facility. Brody Hall, although he's a very young kid, he has a very successful business and a very good, positive, growth-oriented mindset. And I think you can get a lot out of this podcast. Brody Hall, thank you so much for coming on. For the people who don't know you, what do you do?
So my name is Brody Hall. I own Xelerate Auto here in Lancaster. We're a paint protection film, vinyl wrapping, window tint shop. Yeah, we've grown exponentially in 3 years, which is super awesome. Starting like a 2-car garage, and we just moved into like a 16,000 square foot facility, which is amazing. So
awesome.
cool.
So let's get right into it. How do you get into business? How do you get into running your own business? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Just start from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was, when I was like 12, I started flipping shoes. So I got into the whole like space of streetwear shoes, getting Yeezys for retail, reselling them online, stuff like that. And I had a bunch of buddies that were into it as well. And, I kind of could see that I could make money doing that. And from a young age, I kind of just wanted to have no one tell me what to do type deal and just make the money and be able to do what I wanted to. I had a lot of like expensive hobbies even at the time. I was like snowboarding and like wanting more shoes, stuff like that, because it was also a hobby, but I wanted to make money with it. And that kind of corresponded into, everything else I've done with cars and stuff like that.
So at 12 years old, you got into flipping shoes.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Super cool.
What about entrepreneurship? Obviously, you liked the money and you wanted to, capitalize on a passion where you weren't just doing it for fun. But was there like something inside you that you felt like you realized early on that made you want to work for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like making money without someone kind of being on someone else's schedule was a great thing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I work all the time now, but I'd rather do that than do it for someone else in a sense. It's from early on, I kind of realized that there are better ways to make money than just get like a 9-to-5 job and kind of follow the cookie cutter life as people know nowadays.
Yeah. So at 12, you had entrepreneurial tendencies, and then you took on a few other jobs doing odds and ends. We talked about it.
Yeah.
But how did you get into working with cars?
Definitely. So I've always kind of been in the cars, and I kind of get that passion from my dad. So I kind of grew up around him. He's had Mustangs like his whole life. And, even when I was little, I would go out, help him wash his car. It was just a big Sunday thing we did. I started at 15 working up at a shop in Mannheim with my boss who was doing it for like 40 some years. Great guy, knew the best ways to do everything in the business. And, I kind of started washing cars. His tinner quit when I was 16. I got my license, and he wanted to turn me into his full-time tinner. So I was like, you know what? This guy knows what he's talking about. I might as well kind of capitalize on the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of learned everything I could from him. Took it very seriously. I was kind of handling a lot of his back end of his business at like 16, 17 years old, answering emails, phone calls, scheduling, pricing, stuff like that. And, it kind of got to a certain point where I was 18, graduated high school, and I was like, you know what, like I could do this for myself. I kind of had enough knowledge. I figured I would start small and hope it turned into something bigger one day. And yeah, so it has, which is awesome.
So what happened is obviously you left there eventually.
Yeah.
Take me through that story. Why'd you leave? What led to it, and actually make the leap to start your own thing?
Definitely, yeah. So he always kind of like threw in the back of my head like, oh, like maybe you can own the business one day, you know what I mean? Because me and him were like super close. We would stay there till 3 a.m. on a school night, working, stuff like that, because I enjoyed it. I was around cool stuff. I was a young kid, and that was amazing to me. So I kind of, the pay wasn't exactly like what I wanted or what I felt like I deserved for what I did, and it was just kind of a point then that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go try this. I'm 18. What do I have to lose? You know what I mean? I had a bunch of money saved up. I actually started the entire business with 10 grand, which is pretty insane. So
yeah. So how'd you start once you actually took the leap to do your own thing? Did you just start reaching out to friends and family? Like,
Yeah, so I started in it was a small shop in Lidditz. It was like 1,200 square foot, 2 cars. You had to walk through the shop to get back to the office. And yeah, I just started reaching out to friends, family. My parents have always bought cars through like different dealerships and stuff. So I would go out to them, hey, like I'm starting this detail thing. Do you have any like wholesale cars or like lot cars that you need detailed? And I was doing like the bottom of the barrel stuff for a solid like year and a half, really until my name like got out there. But Lidditz actually doesn't have a tin shop, so I was kind of on Google. Google helped me a lot. So when people just search, window tint near me, I was the first person in Lidditz to come up, which is really awesome. But yeah, it was just friends, family, a lot of word of mouth. I didn't do any marketing for like almost 2 years. Just pretty crazy.
yeah.
So just being very personable with people.
Yeah.
Making them feel like you care about their vehicle and and them as a person, because it does go a long way, and that's hard to find nowadays.
Yeah, that's one thing that I realized right when I met you for the first time. I'm like, I was actually one of my last questions is he's just like very positive. Like he's super nice. Every time I met you, you're always just like, hey Logan, or like super big smile, even if we didn't know each other.
Definitely.
And that was definitely, I don't know, it was something that stood out from the very beginning.
For sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So over the past 3 years you've been in business?
Yeah.
How did you grow the company? How did you go about bringing on employees, building a team, scaling, getting new clients? Just walk me through.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll start out with the kind of team building thing. So everyone in Xelerate Auto has kind of been like grandfathered in a sense. Like there's no one really kind of just off the street. And we've had the same people for 2 years now. We've all, we come to work every day. We love what we do, and we all get along, which is amazing. And I feel like that's very important in the team building and, team process. But yeah, so my dad actually came. He was the first person who started working with me alongside me, and he was in construction before. And the dream was always to have him quit and be able to match his salary, come and work at Xelerate Auto. And that happened about a year and a half in, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Because I needed help with like the back end of the business and the work in the shop too. Because he, like I said, he used to detail back in the day, so he knows a good bit about what we do in the shop. He does great work. Very cares about quality, all that good stuff. So he started, and then I hired my tinner Alex, who's actually from my old shop. So my old boss trained him as well. He wasn't too happy there either, and he actually came in to work for me then, but he's been great too. Does phenomenal work. We both have kind of the same passion as well for tinning and all that good stuff. And it's just finding people you can trust, which is amazing. And then Ryan. So Ryan does all the wrapping. Mm-hmm. So me and Ryan kind of like knew each other through like mutual friends for a while. And then there's a big like car event, H2OI in Ocean City. Mm-hmm. Me and him met. Well, we kind of got closer down there. We were walking one night just along the street, and I was like, oh, so like you've wrapped a couple cars. He's like, yeah, like I enjoyed doing it. He was paving at the time. And I was like, oh, you should come up and try and like wrap a car for me for a customer. So first wrap car we ever had was like a dealership. And they wanted this white Audi A7 wrapped red because they don't make a red one. I was like, okay. Like I called Ryan up. He lived like an hour away at the time. And came up, wrapped the car, came out great. And then we kind of just started doing more and more jobs from there. And now he's actually moved up here because he lived an hour away. So he moved up here. He's full-time now. And then we have a guy who sprays bed liners for Rhino. He's been a family friend for over 20-some years. He helped me when I was a baby. But yeah, his name's Larry. Great guy. Does phenomenal work, and he'll do anything for anybody. So it's basically just people you can trust in a sense, which is really nice. And, when we're at work, it's a work environment. And when we go home, then it's personal life stuff. But yeah, so it's super cool.
How do you go about, like, right now, is your only skill outside of obviously running the business, but like what you sell is only the thing you do is window tint? Or do you do a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so I know how to do a little bit of everything in the shop. The only thing I really don't know how to do is spray the bed liners. Yeah. But yeah, my dad, he handles more of that side of the business too, and then along with Larry. So between those two, we have those two that spray the beds. And so I know how to do like window tint. I install all the paint protection film out of the shop, ceramic coats, paint corrections. I can do all that. But vinyl wrapping, I know how to do. I'm not great at it.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So, I left that to Ryan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess my question was like, as you're bringing on, you started with just window tint, I'm assuming?
We did. Yep.
And then as you're bringing on more clients, as you're bringing on a team, you're kind of figuring out what the clients need and you're partnering that with the team that can deliver, it seems like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I mean, that's a key feature to, any business.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Because say your client wants this, well, you kind of want to be that place that can benefit all their needs instead of just one or two, because they'll go elsewhere looking for someone who can do all of it at once and save them a trip.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So what have been some of your biggest challenges in the past 3 years?
Yeah, so I definitely struggle with the whole growth aspect of stuff. Like, not per se we struggle growing, it's the growing pains that come along with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very stressful mentally, and I'm still young. I'm 21. So, being a 21-year-old trying to deal with the social aspect, what people think of you at a young age, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that is very, it gets stressful. And then trying to deal with, customers on top of that, people reaching out all the time. I mean, like I get anxiety and stuff about like, oh, I didn't answer this guy. Is he going to think this way about it? So stuff like that. I'm just busy at the end of the day. So it's just one of those things that I'm super tied up doing so many things all the time that it's hard for me to really like focus on different things throughout the business as far as growth. So yeah, that's one thing I struggle with, especially with like me handling the back end, like phone calls, emails, text messages, all that stuff, social media.
Yeah.
So
have you ever had like, obviously 3 years, it's very impressive to see how far you've gotten at such a young
definitely.
age and so early in the business. But have you ever had like anything really go wrong?
I cross my fingers, knock on wood. No. That's
good.
Yeah, which is awesome. Very thankful for that.
Yeah.
So there's never really been like a time I was struggling. I mean, back when I first started the business, I went through like a really bad breakup. It was like as soon as I got out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost one of those things that fueled my fire. But for the time being, I was like very just distraught. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I kind of let that be a turning point. I can either just dwell on this or I can make something of it. So that was really like the only thing that kind of set me back a little bit. But
so what are some of your beliefs, your personal beliefs? You're kind of hint at them, like right there. Instead of being distraught, you just focused on what you could control and move forward. And you said before we got on the podcast, growth is the only way. What are some of your beliefs around just running a business and building wealth?
Yeah, definitely. So I truly believe that building wealth is you can be successful without success means something different to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether that's money, it's your happiness. I think there's a good balance between the both of them. I'm not focused on making all the money in the world. I do what I do every day because I love it. And I feel like people who do just focus on the money aspect of it aren't in it for the long term. You can make a short-term investment in that, but then turn out not happy or have something go wrong later
Mm-hmm.
on. But if you stay consistent throughout, then I feel like you feel better about yourself, you feel better about your business and kind of everything else. So
what do you think keeps you hungry? Like, why do you want to keep on growing? Why do you want to keep on bringing on more and more clients and growing and moving into a bigger space?
Definitely. Yeah. So just the natural drive for, things I want out of life, either materialistic or just for my family one day. I want to be able to provide for, my significant other or our family and give them better opportunities. My family didn't have like a ton of money growing up, stuff like that. I grew up very middle class. So it was just one of those things that I saw a way to make more. And I've seen what I've done in 3 years. What can I do in 10? You know what I mean? And it just gets me really excited every day. I wake up and, I love going to work. I love talking, meeting new people. And, I've watched like a lot of your videos. You talk about connections all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and like what I've learned over 3 years, you cannot be like that smart of a person, but have all the connections in the world and it will set you up for success.
Mm-hmm.
Like truly. Just talking to people in general and having a genuine conversation goes so far nowadays.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I asked the hunger question because I found in, all the people I listen to. I'm pretty sure I bring up Tony Robbins in every single podcast. But he says that the number one factor towards somebody's success, not talking materialistic success, but just achievement, success in life, is their hunger for life, just their ability to want to grow and keep doing more. I didn't realize you were so young.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm only 21.
I thought you were like late 20s probably.
Really?
You just act a lot more mature.
Yeah, no, I
and
appreciate
you have
that.
It looks like a successful business.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are you doing to grow now? How do you, with the hunger that you obviously have?
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, having a lot more space has definitely allowed us to do more. We definitely work more proficiently. So we moved into the space about 2 months ago, and I can already see our workflow is definitely a lot smoother because at the last shop we had to pull things out to pull things in. You know what I mean? Things were sitting out so they couldn't get done efficiently. So in this new shop, I mean, our workflow and just the space you're in has a lot to do with the flow and everything else of your business. So, I've seen all of us work way better together. Projects kind of just get rolled out more efficiently, which is awesome. And you do see growth in your income, your profits, stuff like that once you are allowed to work efficiently and with each other. So instead of around each other.
Yeah. So outside of success in the business, what are other things that you look at as success? What does success mean to you is basically? Definitely.
So I feel like happiness is definitely one thing. Like, do you wake up every morning and want to go do what you do day in and day out? Success to me isn't really a materialistic thing. It's not, flexing on Instagram and stuff like that. Because I don't think that makes people truly happy at the end of the day. Providing for your family and just being able to do the things you want when you want to do them is definitely a huge part of my hunger and drive towards success. You know what I mean? So
yeah. What do you think? Why do you think you're so positive? You're obviously very good at building connections, very good at communicating and talking with people and just being authentic.
For sure.
Where do you think that comes from?
So honestly, my parents, like at a very young age, they kind of just taught me, treat people how you want to be treated type of deal. They kind of let me make my own decisions when I was growing up. My parents weren't like crazy strict. Like they kind of let me figure certain things out. Like obviously, my parents weren't very hard on me about certain things. Obviously, I was a pretty good kid. I didn't really do many bad things, but yeah, they kind of just let me figure it out and kind of make relationships with people, connections. They let me hang out with like friends on the weekend all the time. So I was always doing that, like meeting new people. And, I'm just a huge people person. And both of my parents, so are my parents as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of got that from them a little bit. And, it just kind of corresponds to everything else. And I just love talking to people. Like you'll never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
Or like, what story they have or something like that. So I always love talking to people. It's awesome.
Going back a little bit, do you have any education in business or did you just get into it because you loved cars and window tint and connecting with people and it kind of spawned from there?
Yeah, definitely. So I don't really, I was running his business kind of in Mannheim for like a little bit when I was like 16, 17, like answering calls, pricing stuff, quotes. So yeah, I kind of like learned a lot from there for like 2 years of doing that. But yeah, I mean, the only other thing in that was like an entrepreneurship class in high school. But I fell asleep like it was like 8 o'clock, 7:40. The class started, and this girl next to me would always have to wake me up because I would just slump on the table, and she would always stop the class. So, but that teacher since retired. I was gonna email her and like see if I could go back in and like talk, but she retired, so she'd be blown away.
So throughout, obviously you said growth pains, but that's more of like scale. But like throughout the past 3 years of growing the business, how do you go about learning things? Because obviously you run into daily struggles of like, how do you figure out how to pay taxes the first time? How do you all that stuff? How do you figure that out?
So I've been able to kind of put certain people in place to handle stuff like that for me. So my dad he used to run his own construction business. So when the housing market crashed in 2008, he stopped with that. He kind of, his business kind of went under, stuff like that. And so he already kind of knew like the tax side of it and the whole back end with like numbers, figuring out like profit margins, stuff like that. So, he was a big help and he still is, to figuring out all that for me. But I do have an accountant, so she handles like all the taxes and stuff because I'm not
Yeah.
there with all that stuff yet.
Yeah.
But
I just mean in general, not necessarily just with financials, but like
Okay.
growing a business. How do
Yeah.
you figure it out along the way? You obviously
Definitely.
just started, you were getting clients. Do you just,
yeah, so I mean, it's, I like to find things that work and then I'll just stick with that. You know what I mean? And it's just consistency. So as soon as you kind of start to like fall down a little bit and like, I feel like you realize that about yourself. You're like, oh, well, I'm trying to do this, but like this thing really worked. So, I usually try and stick with the things that work as far as like marketing, talking to people, the same things I tell people about their vehicles, stuff like that. So I kind of try and stick to what I know in a sense. And that's actually progressed the business a lot over the past 3 years. Yeah, like I said, just staying consistent is huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, when like figuring new things out, like in business, like when something happens, I'm like, oh, I've never dealt with this before. I got to figure it out. And, I have a lot of great connections around me, like Jack,
Yeah.
Dirty Max. So, he's a big mentor to me as well. And like I have a couple of my clients that have been in business for themselves for a lot of years, and they're always willing to help me because they know I'm so young and just trying to figure things out. So I have a lot of great connections that help me kind of figure different situations out, and if they don't have an answer to it, I got to figure it out myself, type of deal. And you learn a lot about the situation and yourself at that point. Definitely.
How do you approach failures? Obviously, they don't need to be massive failures, but
Yeah.
like little failures on a daily basis.
Definitely. So I don't let it affect me. I learn from it. So and just about any entrepreneur will tell you that.
Yeah.
You just got to learn from it, keep going. You can't let it get you down. Obviously we're all human. We all struggle. I can't say that I have the best days all the time. But yeah, I'll just kind of take them as they are. I don't let it affect me too much. Things that maybe are out of my control. Hey, I tried. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's like a lot of people's biggest issue, like the scare factor going into something holds them back from, new opportunities in life. But, you're never going to know unless you try. So,
yeah. And I
very
think
much
that's
so.
a big reason why you've seen so much success is you haven't been in that state of fear. You're,
Yeah.
willing to try things.
Definitely. And I feel like being so young too, like I just haven't had the scared mentality,
Yeah.
which is like kind of bad because like now we're getting to a level where like we have a lot more on the table. But like when I was first starting, like I had like $1,200 a month in rent. That was fairly easy to make at the time. There was a couple like stressful months where I was like, oh, like just
Yeah.
sitting behind my desk waiting for calls for 8 hours. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, to schedule some work. But yeah, I mean it's all kind of what you do with it.
Yeah.
So
What are some of the very they're simple but the uncommon things that you think you need to do in order to be successful?
definitely, definitely getting out of your comfort zone for sure. I feel like a lot of people's comfort zone, kind of holds them back from different things that they want to progress in life. Like I have friends and stuff tell me all the time that, hey, I would love to do this, but this, and this is holding me back. Well, what can you do to not let that, and that hold you back? You know what I mean? So it's all just in finding a process into making yourself into who you want to be. Because it's so easy to give excuses.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to find the solution to those. And that's kind of what I enjoy out of life. Like I enjoy finding the solutions to my excuses in a sense.
Yeah.
Which is great, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So what do you think? I don't think you obviously are very good at getting outside of your comfort zone and approaching things and with that mentality of like let's just try this thing, see how it works. Why don't you think most people do that?
So I feel like it's kind of like a upbringing. I feel like it's definitely if someone's been so exposed to that kind of sense of life, where oh no, like stick to this, and that's how you're gonna end up type deal. I feel like it starts out kind of in the home in a sense, or like just within your friend group, stuff like that. People you surround yourself with. I mean, people who say like you are who you surround yourself with. It's so true. If you surround yourself with closed-minded individuals, stuff like that, you're not gonna, grow as a person yourself. So, like I said, I have a lot of customers who are a lot older than me, that have done amazing things, and I look at that as wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that one day. So.
Follow up to that is like, what would you say to somebody who does feel stuck and wants to do something else or wants to try something different, follow a passion, get a different job, whatever? What would you say to them?
Definitely. You'll never know unless you try. Yeah, I mean, you could be missing out on a lifetime full of opportunity. And I feel like missing out on that is scarier than not trying in a sense. So yeah, that's kind of, get out of your comfort zone and just go for it.
Yeah.
You may have a lot to lose, but if you do fail, you tried, get back up and, try again in something else.
Yeah.
Or figure out a better way to do what you tried to do and failed at.
Yeah. So. To add to that, I always make decisions. I think there's two things that people make decisions on that make it based off of the fear of failure.
Definitely.
Or the fear of regret.
For sure.
And most people make it off the fear of failure. They're afraid to try. They're afraid to, they don't want to, other people to look at them in a bad way or whatever. That all comes down to failure. I always try to approach something like, will I regret this in a week? Will I regret this not making this decision in a month, in a year, in 10 years? And if I will regret it, I always do it, regardless of if I'm afraid of failing or not.
I agree. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I mean, like this building that we just moved into, I have a 7-year lease here. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
Yeah, so I'm here for 7 years.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things. We were growing out of our last shop. It just came down to a space thing. Mm-hmm. We had the work to schedule stuff like that, but it just came down to a space thing, and where we were at the time, it wasn't adequate for all of our workflow. So, getting into this building, I was like, you know what? If we're going to do it, we're going to do it big. So now it's just finding different avenues to drive more business and everything else to the shop. We've stayed super consistent already, and, we've already seen our profits, stuff like that, go up as well. Like I said, in the past 2 months, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So
what are the things that you're doing to make sure that you keep having work?
Yeah, definitely. So I've gotten more so into like the trying to market side of things.
Yeah.
Like running a lot of Google ads, Facebook stuff, like here and there. I don't really like blast I don't know. I don't like to plaster my name on like everything type of deal.
Yeah.
I just kind of like to have it out in front of people, in a sense. So, let them know like, okay, like this place does this, this, and this. Cool. So we do a lot of like package stuff. So like we'll do full builds, and stuff like that, which is really cool. There's not really a one-stop shop in Lancaster. I guess there's a couple of them, but that's what we're trying to be, and just be the automotive, I guess, heaven of Lancaster.
Yeah, so, the place to go when you need anything done.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, me included, have always put a lot of energy into like trying to sell things, trying to convince things, and trying to make clients want to buy. But seems like what you're really good at is the opposite, which I believe is better, where you just put yourself out there and you are something that people already need.
Exactly.
And you're just, instead of having to create the demand, which I know that I don't need to create, you're really good at getting in front of the demand.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, I feel like things grow better organically.
Yeah.
And when people don't feel pressured, they like that and they want to come back to you, because they appreciate that environment. So, I try and make all my customers feel welcomed, like family, stuff like that. If they need something done, they're going to call me. You know what I mean? I don't like to, hey, your car, you just got window tint, but you also need a ceramic coat. You need like a paint correction really bad. Like I'll mention it to them, but I'm not like down their throats. Like, let's just schedule this. You know what I mean? Like I'll throw you this deal on it. So I feel like people do really appreciate a genuine person at the end of the day, because like I said, in business, it's hard to find that.
Yeah.
So,
and I think this is my last question. What daily habits do you feel like you do on a consistent basis to create success, to continually grow?
For sure. So I mean, basically, I wake up like, I'm not the earliest riser, if I'm being honest. I wake up like 7:38. Usually at the shop by like 8:30. But simple things like making my bed. That's like the first achievement of my day. every day. Like that's one thing. If I can do it, I feel like I got something done. But yeah, just going in the morning with a positive attitude. Well, like I said, I'm not perfect, but most days I try and go in with a positive attitude.
Yeah.
If I'm stressing about something, I'll kind of, just deal with the problem head on. Say I have something to worry about that next morning. That's the first thing that's getting done, is if I'm worrying about something. But yeah, I mean, just handling, I like to stick to a routine throughout the day. So like in the morning, I'll get to calls, text messages, social media, just basically replying to people in the morning. I'll go out in the shop, work for 3 hours, eat lunch, and then, go back to working, and then calls at the end of the day. So I like to stick to a good routine throughout my day. I don't like to get flustered. I mean, I do sometimes, obviously. I'm human. But yeah, so I don't like to get flustered and let that kind of affect my work day. But yeah, it's just consistency with a tight schedule and everything else. So very much so.
Yeah. I normally try to pull out, like, what are people's biggest failures or biggest challenges, like biggest adversity that they got over.
I know.
And like you're like, nothing. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm super fortunate that everything has worked out the way it has. Like I said, I mean, I deal with like the constant like stress and pressure of being a business owner all the time. Like I saw your other podcast. Like you said, you were here till 1:30 in the morning editing your thing, and I took a nap the next day.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Like I will work till 2, 3 a.m. and I'll start at like 8 the day before. And does it suck? Yeah, but it's what you got to do as a business owner. And some people just aren't willing to put in that time either, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, like I just worked 9, 10 hours a day. Obviously, I'm gonna go home. Well, it kind of can't be like that or have that mentality.
Yeah.
When you're trying to run a growing business. So, like just like you, I work all the time throughout the week, like when I'm busy and stuff. It does get hard to manage like social life and balance between the two. But if it gets you to somewhere great later on, then can't beat it.
Yeah.
So.
I think a big part of the reason behind people like us, like why we are willing to work as much as we do. Like yesterday, it was a Saturday. I worked 13 hours. I left here at 9 p.m. Like I worked all day on Saturday, and I loved it.
Sure.
And I think that's it. Exactly. Is we love the process.
Yeah.
We're
very
not
much so.
Obviously money and building a financially free future and being able to support a family and multiple generations and build having the free time and all of that is a big factor into why we do what we do. But at the end of the day, we just love the process, and we're willing to work hours and hours to do it.
I agree, and we love seeing it start to finish. You know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a huge factor in a lot of people's success, is the willingness to put time into what they love or what they enjoy, and not just chasing the money aspect. Because I feel like if you can kind of tell when someone is chasing money in an industry, it doesn't come off very genuine, their personality and stuff like that. So especially in just different industries, and I'm sure you've seen it, that people, you can kind of tell who's just in it for the money and like the short term, rather than people who really love and enjoy what they do and are in it for the long term. So yeah, I feel like that transparency is definitely a big thing that kind of plays into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
So Brody, I think that's good. I mean, your work ethic is very clear. Your ability to connect with people and build connections is obviously one of your strong suits.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I kind of kept it short this morning. So
that's not a bad
thing.
Short and sweet to the point.
Exactly. So I can't beat it.
Awesome.
But yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It means a lot.
Thanks. All right, that is all. Thank you guys. Blah, blah. All right, that is the end of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment if you want to see more, a part that you liked, a part that you resonated with. Subscribe if you want to see videos just like this one. I'm trying to put out a podcast just like this with a new guest every single week. Every single Monday is, I think, my release schedule. And it's also on video or also on audio. So if you're on the audio, thank you so much for listening. Leave a review, leave a 5-star rating, because I think my rating is still the only one. I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.